Imagine two brilliant minds, two visionaries who literally shaped the world we live in today. On one side, Steve Jobs, the perfectionist obsessed with design who transformed Apple into the most valuable company on the planet. On the other, Bill Gates, the strategic genius who dominated the world of computers and became the richest man on Earth. But what you might not know is that this epic rivalry began as a partnership. Two young nerds who respected each other, collaborated, and even had fun together. So, what transformed this friendship into a technological war that defined the future of humanity? If you want to discover the behind the scenes of this historic battle, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Because today we're going to dive into the most fascinating story of Silicon Valley. And get ready, because this journey will surprise you from beginning to end. Our story begins in 1975, when two young 20-year-olds met for the first time. Steve Jobs had just dropped out of college and was working at Atari, one of the first video game companies. Bill Gates, meanwhile, had left Harvard to focus on a small company called Microsoft, which he had founded with his childhood friend, Paul Allen. The first meeting between them happened when Jobs approached Microsoft to develop a version of BASIC for the Apple II. Gates, despite being younger than Jobs, already showed his business genius. He not only accepted the project, but envisioned a much greater opportunity. At that moment, both shared a revolutionary vision, bringing computers into people's homes. It was an almost crazy idea for the time, since computers were giant machines that occupied entire rooms and cost millions of dollars. But these two young men saw a different future. Jobs was a visionary of design and user experience. He had an almost sickly obsession with perfection and simplicity. When he looked at a product, he saw not just functionality, but art. Gates, on the other hand, was the natural strategist. He understood the power of software and had a clear vision of how to dominate entire markets. During the first years, they worked together in surprisingly harmonious fashion. Microsoft developed software for the Apple II, including the popular VisiCalc, which helped transform the Apple II into the first truly successful personal computer. Jobs respected Gates' ability with software, while Gates admired Jobs' talent for creating products that people desired. But in 1980, something happened that would change everything forever. Apple was about to go public, and everyone knew this would make Jobs extremely rich. Gates, seeing his partner's success, began to question his own strategy. He realized that while he was developing software for other companies, he was helping them get rich, but Microsoft remained as a supplier. It was then that Gates had an epiphany that would change the world of technology. Instead of creating customized software for each computer manufacturer, why not create a universal operating system that could run on any machine? This idea would be the seed of MS-DOS and later, Windows. The first major conflict between them happened in 1981, when IBM approached Microsoft to develop an operating system for their new personal computer. Gates, in a brilliant move, bought an operating system called QDOS for just $50,000, modified it, and sold it to IBM as MS-DOS. But here's the genius detail. Gates kept the rights to license the system to other companies. Jobs was furious when he found out. He saw this strategy as a betrayal of the principles they had established together. For Jobs, each product should be unique, control from hardware to software. For Gates, standardization meant market domination. In 1983, the tension reached its limit when Microsoft launched Microsoft Word for Macintosh before even launching it for PCs. Jobs interpreted this as an attempt by Gates to take advantage of Apple's innovation, but Gates argued that he was simply serving the best available hardware at the time. The definitive break happened in 1985, during a meeting that became legendary in Silicon Valley. Jobs accused Gates of stealing Apple's ideas, especially the graphical interface that Apple had developed. Gates, known for his coldness in negotiations, responded with a phrase that became historic. "Well, Steve, I think there's more than one way to look at it. I think it's more like we both had a rich neighbor named Xerox, and I broke into his house to steal the TV set, but found out that you had already stolen it." This phrase revealed an inconvenient truth. Both Apple and Microsoft have been inspired by Xerox PARC's innovations to create their graphical interfaces. But Jobs never could accept that Gates had the same right to innovation as he did. From that moment on, the rivalry intensified dramatically. Jobs left Apple in 1985 after an internal struggle for control of the company, while Gates focused on transforming Windows into the worldwide standard of operating systems. During Jobs' absence from Apple, Gates consolidated his domination. Windows became the world's most used operating system, present on more than 90% of personal computers. Microsoft grew exponentially, and Gates became the richest man in the world, with a fortune that reached over $100 billion. Meanwhile, Jobs founded Next and bought Pixar, where he developed revolutionary films like Toy Story. But Apple, without its visionary co-founder, began to lose relevance in the market. The company that had once challenged IBM was now on the brink of bankruptcy. And here happens one of the most impressive turnarounds in business history. In 1997, Apple invited Jobs to return as CEO. The company had only 90 days of cash and desperately needed capital. In a moment that shocked the tech world, Bill Gates appeared by video at Macworld 1997 to announce that Microsoft would invest $150 million in Apple. The audience booed. Seeing Gates on screen during an Apple event was like seeing the biggest rival saving the enemy. But Gates understood something that many didn't perceive at the time. He needed Apple strong to avoid monopoly accusations. A Microsoft without competition would be an easy target for the American government. Jobs swallowed his pride and accepted the help, but promised himself that this would be the last time he would depend on Gates. And that's exactly what happened. From 1998 onwards, Jobs led one of the greatest recoveries in business history. First came the iMac, with its colorful and revolutionary design that showed the world that computers could be beautiful. Then, the iPod transformed the music industry and proved that Apple could create products that went far beyond computers. But the final blow in the rivalry came in 2007 with the launch of the iPhone. Jobs didn't just create a new product. He created a new category. The iPhone transformed phones into pocket computers and fundamentally changed how we interact with technology. Gates, who had dominated the PC era, completely missed the timing of the mobile era. Microsoft tried to compete with Windows Phone, but never managed to achieve the combination of elegant design and intuitive functionality that Jobs had created. During Jobs' final years of life, who died in 2011 from cancer, the rivalry gave way to mutual respect. In his last interviews, Gates recognized Jobs' genius for creating products that people loved. Jobs, in turn, admitted that Gates had built an impressive business empire. But perhaps the most touching moment of this rivalry was a letter that Gates sent to Jobs shortly before his death. In it, Gates wrote about his admiration for his rival and how he had learned from Jobs over the years. Jobs kept that letter until his final days. Today, more than a decade after Jobs' death, we can clearly see how this rivalry transformed the world. If Jobs taught us that technology can be art, Gates showed us that software is power. If Jobs proved that obsession with perfection can create magical products, Gates demonstrated that strategy and long-term vision can build empires. But here's the most important lesson. Neither of them would have achieved their accomplishments without the other. Jobs needed Gates to motivate himself to create increasingly better products. Gates needed Jobs to understand that technology goes beyond functionality. It needs to excite. The next time you pick up your smartphone or turn on your computer, remember that you're using the result of one of the greatest rivalries in history. Two brilliant minds that, by competing fiercely, ended up creating the future that we all live in today. And you, what do you think? Who really won this epic battle? Jobs with his obsession for design and innovation, or Gates with his market domination strategy? Leave your opinion in the comments. And since we're talking about technology and innovation, if you want to master this area that's transforming the world, don't miss the opportunity to check out the best technology courses available. Click the link in the description and discover how you can become an expert in programming, artificial intelligence, data analysis, and much more. These are courses developed by specialists that will give you the tools to build your own technological revolution. The rivalry between Jobs and Gates teaches us that competition, when healthy, can lead humanity to heights never imagined. They weren't just entrepreneurs. They were architects of the future. And now it's your turn to be part of this story. Like the video if this story inspired you. Subscribe to the channel for more content about the behind the scenes of technology. And don't forget to click the link in the description to take the next step in your technological journey. Until the next video.